The news now. Sudanese health officials says 7 people have been killed, 140 injured in clashes between soldiers and protesters hours after the military seized power. CGTN's Timothy Ulrich explains how it unfolded.
The transitional government was meant to bring stability to Sudan. For some, it sparked outrage. Over a week before the military took power, protesters called on the armed forces to step in. They said the joint military-civilian government has failed to address their most pressing concerns.
We took to the streets today only to ask for specific demands. Firstly, we are hungry. There are no means of transportation, no telecommunication, no education, a high cost of living, low income, and no security.
The response came days later from supporters of the government. They defended the Sovereign Council, the body set up to change from military to civilian rule. The rival protests continued, and the head of the transitional government, General Abdel Fattah al-Burhan, announced the military was in control.
A competent and independent government will take care of the country until the upcoming elections. It will be formed respecting and representing all Sudanese people.
He dissolved the Sovereign Council and declared a state of emergency. That was hours after local media reported Prime Minister Abdallah Hamdok and several officials had been arrested. There was immediate, fierce backlash on the ground. Pro-government groups called for general strikes and protests. The United Nations Special Envoy in Sudan described the scenes in Khartoum.
If I look out of the window, and indeed it is getting dark, we still have barricades burning, and we can hear occasional gunshots.
He called for the military to release the detained officials. Those sentiments were shared by the head of the UN and the US. Washington announced it was suspending $700 million worth of aid to Sudan. Days before the military took power, America's envoy to the region, Jeffrey Feltman, was in Khartoum. He wanted to ease the tensions between opposition groups through discussions. China says this is the only option to solve their issues.
We call on all parties concerned to resolve their differences through dialogue so as to maintain the peace and stability of the country.
The calls for talks were also echoed by the African Union and several world leaders. Timothy Ulrich, CGTN.